When my daughter-in-law showed up on my porch with mascara-streaked cheeks and a folder from the bank in her shaking hands, I realized something ugly. The same woman who'd cut me off from my own grandbabies suddenly remembered my name when her house was in danger. I stood there, one hand on the screen door, the other still damp from rinse water, and just looked at her for a moment. The porch light turned her into a silhouette. Sharp shoulders, tight jaw, that same proud tilt of her chin I used to mistake for confidence. Behind me, the clock in my hallway ticked loud, like it was keeping score. "Miss Evelyn, please," she whispered. "I need your signature." Isn't it funny how please don't show up until folks are desperate? Before I tell you what I did on that porch, let me say this real quick. If you're watching this on your phone, maybe lying in bed or cooking dinner, and you've ever had family turn your love into a weapon, if you've ever been cut off from children you helped raise, go ahead and let me know in the comments. And if this kind of story hits home for you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, let me take you back to how all this started, because it didn't begin with a signature. It began with a house and a promise. Before I was the woman standing at that door, I was just Grandma Evelyn from the east side of Richmond, Virginia. 68 years old, knees that complained every time it rained, and a little brick house that smelled like coffee and pine sol in the mornings and fried chicken and cornbread on Sundays. My days were simple, and I liked them that way. Most mornings I woke up before the sun, when the world was still quiet and soft. I'd shuffle into the kitchen in my worn pink slippers, the ones my sister Laverne gave me before she passed, and put a pot of coffee on. The drip of the machine, the low hum, that was my starting bell. While the coffee brewed, I'd open my curtains and watch the neighborhood wake up. Mr. Jackson walking that old beagle of his, kids waiting on the school bus, someone's car that always took 3 tries to start. On Fridays, my son, Andre, would bring my grandbabies by, little Joshua with those big curious eyes, and his baby sister, Mia, with cheeks so soft she felt like fresh dough. They'd come bursting through my front door like a blessing and a storm at the same time. "Grandma, you make biscuits," Joshua would shout before he even took his shoes off. And I'd laugh, wiping my hands on my dish towel. Boy, when have you ever known me not to have biscuits? We had our little routines. Andre would sit at my kitchen table, still in his work boots and polo shirt, scrolling his phone, while I listened for the tiniest details in his life. A new contract at work, his boss getting on his nerves, the way he said his wife's name, Keisha. Keisha was complicated. When he first brought her home, 3 years earlier, she walked into my house with a bouquet of flowers in one hand and a shield around her heart I could almost see. Pretty girl, with honey brown skin and long braids down her back, nails done, makeup soft and careful. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Nice to finally meet you, Miss Evelyn," she'd said, voice polite but guarded, like she was waiting on me to fail some test. "You can call me Mama Evelyn," I'd replied, reaching to hug her. She stiffened just a second before she eased in. My arms went around her anyway. "If you gone love my son, you family now." She laughed, a quick nervous sound. "Yes, ma'am." Over time, we found a rhythm. I showed her how to make collard greens without boiling them to death. She taught me how to use that fancy air fryer they got on sale one Black Friday. Some days she called me just to ask which detergent got stains out better. Other days we could go a whole week without talking. But things felt stable. Not perfect, but stable. The turning point came the year they decided they wanted a house. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I'd just finished laying the last piece of cornbread in the basket when Andre cleared his throat at the table. I knew that sound. It was the same one his father used to make when he had something heavy to say, but wasn't sure how I'd take it. "Mama," Andre started, eyes bouncing from his plate to my face. "We've been thinking it's time we get our own place. A house. Somewhere the kids can grow up, you know? I smiled before he even finished. About time. I've been praying on that for y'all. Keisha sat up a little straighter. We found a development on the south side. New builds. Good schools. But she twisted her napkin, avoiding my eyes. The bank said we need a cosigner. Somebody with strong credit and established history. Andre reached across the table and put his hand over mine. Mama, I wouldn't even ask if we had another way. We got the income. We just don't have the track record yet. Student loans messed us up. But the broker said if you put your name on the deed with us, it'd be no problem. Silence settled over the table for a moment, like another guest had just sat down. I took a slow breath. The smell of baked chicken and butter filled the space between us, but suddenly it all tasted like responsibility. My house had been paid off for 12 years. I knew what it meant to owe a bank. I'd spent my 30s scared of the mailman because every envelope felt like a threat. You want my name on your house, I said carefully, turning it over in my mind like a stone. Yes, ma'am, Andre said. Just until we build more history. You know I'm good for it. You know I'm steady. And he was. Hardworking. Consistent. Never gave me a lick of trouble growing up, not after his daddy passed. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised on late shifts and prayers, and my heart swelled. This was my child. My blood. I turned to Keisha. And what you think, baby girl? You comfortable with that? She looked surprised I asked her directly. For a second, the shield around her seemed to drop. Honestly, Miss Mama Evelyn, I don't love the idea of somebody else being on our house. But I know we can't do it without help. And I do trust you. Her voice cracked a little on that last part, like the word, trust, hadn't had much practice in her life. That mattered to me. We talked it through. The risks. The responsibilities. I told them plain. If y'all miss payments, that don't just hurt you. It hurt me. My name, my credit, my peace. Andre nodded solemnly. We won't, Mama. I promise. I would never do that to you. I studied their faces, my son, hopeful and earnest, my daughter-in-law, trying so hard to look confident but glancing down at her hands like every decision she'd ever made was being weighed right there. I didn't work all them double shifts at the hospital for you to be stuck in apartments your whole life. I finally said, if this gon' help you build something for my grandbabies, then yes. I'll put my name on that deed. Andre closed his eyes for a second, like he'd been holding his breath. Then he stood up and pulled me into a hug that nearly lifted me out my chair. Thank you, Mama. You don't know what this means. Oh, I do. I murmured into his shoulder. I know exactly what it means. What I didn't know back then was how that signature would turn into a weapon later. The day of the closing, the bank office smelled like paper and old coffee. The kind of place where dreams live in manila folders and can die in fine print. The loan officer, a tired-looking woman with glasses sliding down her nose, walked us through every page. Initial here, Mrs. Turner. Sign here. This line says you're a co-owner. This one outlines your liability. The pen felt heavier with each stroke. I watched Andre and Keisha sign too, all three of our names printed neat and proud in black ink. Andre kept squeezing Keisha's knee under the table, whispering, We did it, baby. We did it. On the way out, Keisha surprised me. She took my hand in the parking lot, her voice soft. Thank you, Mama Evelyn. Really. I know things ain't always easy between us, but I'm grateful. I squeezed her fingers back. We family, and family supposed to help each other when they can. Back then, I believed that with my whole heart. I was there the first time they brought the kids to the new house, a beige two-story with blue shutters and a little patch of grass out front that Andre insisted was a yard. The air smelled like fresh paint and new carpet. Nia toddled through the living room, her little hands touching bare walls that hadn't seen any pictures yet. This gon' be your room, baby girl, I told her, swinging her onto my hip. Grandma gone, make sure it got the prettiest curtains. Those early days in the new house were full of promise. Cookouts in the backyard with cheap plastic chairs and paper plates. Saturday visits where I'd show up with fried fish and foil and leave with my heart full from watching the kids run up and down the stairs. If you told me then that one day I'd be standing outside that same house, staring at it from the street like a stranger, I would have laughed in your face. But the thing about cracks, you don't always hear them when they start. Sometimes they're just quiet shifts, little changes in tone and timing that turn into fault lines when you're not looking. The first crack showed up in Keisha's voice. It was subtle at first, shorter answers, tighter shoulders, a new edge on words that used to be soft. One Sunday afternoon, I brought over a pan of mac and cheese like I always did. The kind with 3 cheeses and the crispy corners Joshua fought everybody for. When I handed it to Keisha in the kitchen, she smiled, but it never made it past her lips.
Oh.
You made the kids' favorite again, she said, setting it on the counter a little too hard. Thank you. Something about the way she said favorite felt off, like it was a problem instead of a blessing. I brushed it off. Told myself I was being sensitive. Told myself new homeowners were stressed, that marriages had growing pains. I had a whole list of excuses ready to cover that little knot forming in my chest. Back then, I still believed if you loved people hard enough, everything else would work itself out. I didn't know that sometimes the people you help build a house will turn around and try to lock you out of it. I should have trusted that knot in my chest because over the next few weeks, it tightened and tightened until it felt like somebody was pulling a string straight through my ribs. It started small. Missed calls from Andre. Short texts from Keisha. Visits that got pushed back, then forgotten, then replaced with excuses that didn't sound like the truth. One Thursday evening, I called Andre like I always did. It rang 4 times before he picked up, his voice low and distracted. Hey, Mama. Everything okay? Yes, baby. Just checking on y'all. You ain't brought the kids by in 2 weeks. A pause. The kind that isn't silence. It's something being hidden. We've been busy, he said quickly. Work stuff. Before I could ask more, I heard Keisha's voice in the background, sharp, irritated, like someone whispering daggers. Andre lowered his voice further. Aight, Mama, I'll call you later. He hung up before I could say, I love you, and for the first time in my life, that boy made me sit in my kitchen staring at the phone like it had betrayed me too. The next Sunday, I decided I wasn't waiting on no phone call. I baked a peach cobbler, put on my good church blouse, and drove to their house myself. When I pulled up, something felt wrong. Andre's car was there. Keisha's car was there. The kids' toys were scattered across the yard like always. But the house that felt closed. Not physically, emotionally. Like all the windows had secrets behind them. I knocked on the door. I could hear footsteps inside, small ones, little Nia's pattering, Joshua's heavier thumps, but nobody came. I knocked again, louder. After a long moment, the door cracked open just 2 inches. Keisha's face appeared in the sliver, her expression tight and cold.
Oh.
Miss Evelyn, she said, not even opening the door all the way. We weren't expecting you. I blinked. I don't need an invitation to see my son and grandbabies. She didn't move. Today's not a good day. Behind her shoulder, I saw a flash of Joshua's face, that sweet little boy peeking from the stairs with confusion in his eyes. But before he could say a word, Keisha stepped back and blocked him from view. My heart sank. I brought y'all a cobbler, I said softly, holding it up like a peace offering. Keisha's fingers tightened on the door. Thanks, but we're trying to cut back on sweets. Keisha, I said gently, I can tell something's going on. Talk to me, baby. Her eyes hardened. Mama Evelyn, I think you're getting too involved. The kids look to you before they look to me. They run to you when they're upset. Every time you come over, Andre acts like he gotta impress you. It's a lot. My breath caught. I opened my mouth, not to defend myself, but to understand, when Andre suddenly appeared behind her. "Hey, Mama," he said, but his voice was empty, like someone had taken all the warmth out of it while I wasn't looking. He didn't reach for me. He didn't smile. He just stood there, arms crossed over his chest. Something was very wrong in that house. "What's happening?" I whispered. Keisha answered instead. "We need some space. As a family."
Family.
Like I wasn't part of it. Like my blood didn't run through those kids' veins. I felt something deep inside me bend. Not break, not yet, but bend in a way that warned me pain was on the way. Andre shifted uncomfortably, eyes not meeting mine. "Just for a little while, Mama." I swallowed hard. "So, I can't see the kids?"
For now, Keisha said.
"We'll let you know when things calm down." She shut the door before I could respond. The lock clicked. Then another. And I stood there on their porch holding a peach cobbler that was still warm, but I had suddenly gone cold. Over the next few days, I tried to reason with myself. They stressed. They need time. Maybe I overstepped somehow. But deep down, something whispered the truth. Somebody in that house had been working on my son's mind, and somebody wanted me gone. Calls went straight to voicemail. Texts were left on read. Birthdays came and went, no invite. Holidays passed, no seat for Grandma. The silence was louder than any argument. One night, after staring at my phone for an hour, I drove to their house again. I didn't go to start trouble. I just wanted to leave gifts for the kids on the porch. As I approached, I noticed something. A sticker on the doorbell camera. A new one. It read, "This property is protected. All visitors monitored." I froze. That sticker hadn't been there before. And suddenly, like a flash of lightning exposing the whole sky, I understood. They didn't just lock me out emotionally. They were making sure I couldn't even step up their walkway without being watched. The crack inside me grew into a quiet shatter. I turned around, walked back to my car, and sat behind the wheel gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. I didn't cry. Not then. But something in me changed. 3 months passed before I heard their voices again. Not on the phone. Not at my door. Not in person. On my answering machine. A frantic message from Andre. "Mama, call me back as soon as you get this."
Please.
"It's about the house. Keisha messed up something with the loan. The bank's talking foreclosure or something. Mama, please, we need that signature." Then a second message. Then a third. Then a fourth. This one from Keisha herself, voice trembling and small. "Miss Evelyn, I know you must hate me. I know I messed things up. But please, please call us back." I let every single message play to the end. Then I sat there at my kitchen table, the same table where we once talked about that house like it was a dream, and I let myself feel everything they'd done to me. The distance, the disrespect, the silence, the way they weaponized my love for those children. By the time I heard a soft knock on my door the next morning, the sun barely up, the hallway clock ticking like judgment, I already knew. I wasn't the same woman who signed that deed. And whatever they wanted from me now, they were about to learn that I wasn't the desperate one anymore. I heard the knock before I saw the shadow through the frosted glass.
Slow.
Hesitant. Like someone who wasn't sure if they even deserved to be at my door. I didn't rush to answer. For months, nobody in that house had rushed for me. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, took one last breath, and opened the door. There she was. Keisha. The same daughter-in-law who had looked me in my face and told me she needed space. The same one who blocked my number like I was some bill collector instead of the grandmother of her children. But this version of her, she was different. Her braids weren't fresh. They'd grown out at the roots. Her eyes were swollen and red like she hadn't slept in days. Her lips trembled every time she swallowed. She held a folder pressed against her chest like a life jacket. "Miss Evelyn," her voice cracked. "Can I talk to you?" I didn't move. I didn't open the door wider. I didn't invite her in. I let her stand there in the morning chill, shifting on her feet. She took a shaky breath. I know I don't have the right to be here. I know what I did was wrong. I shouldn't have." "Don't start with pretty speeches, Keisha," I said quietly. "Say what you came to say." Her throat bobbed. She clutched the folder tighter. "It's the house," she whispered. "The bank sent a notice. A final one. They said if the co-owner, you, doesn't sign the modification papers by Friday, they're going to move forward with foreclosure." I stared at her without blinking. So now I exist again. She shut her eyes like the words physically hurt. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Miss Evelyn." "Are you?" My voice stayed level.
Calm.
But inside, it felt like years of swallowed hurt were finally rising. Because last I recall, y'all made it real clear that you don't need me. That my presence was somehow too much. Her chin trembled. I was wrong. What changed your mind? She opened the folder with shaking hands and showed me a page, all red letters and bold warnings. I didn't reach for it. She continued, voice growing thinner with each word. "We fell behind. After I quit my job, after some repairs we didn't expect, I tried to handle things myself. I didn't tell Andre at first. I thought I could fix it before he noticed." I raised an eyebrow. "And when the notices came?" "He saw the last one," she whispered. He's furious with me. I let that sit between us. Good. Actions should have consequences." She blinked hard, tears spilling, but she didn't wipe them. "Miss Evelyn, I know I messed up. I know I treated you badly. I pushed you away because I felt like you were better for the kids than I was. I felt like they loved you more. Like Andre's heart leaned toward you more than me." Her breath hitched. "I got jealous. And prideful. And stupid. Jealous. Prideful. Stupid." The truth of it hung in the air like humidity, heavy, damp, unavoidable. But I didn't soften.
Not yet.
"You didn't just push me away," I said. "You cut me off. You erased me from my own grandbabies' lives. You had my son lock me out like I was a stranger." Her shoulders folded inward. "I know. You didn't just hurt me. You hurt them too." This time, she nodded.
Slow.
"Broken. I thought I was protecting my family," she whispered. "But I was destroying it." That was the first honest thing I'd heard her say in a long time. Still, I didn't open the door wider. I didn't let her cross the threshold. Because forgiveness doesn't start at a doorway. It starts at repentance. "Where's Andre?" I asked. "In the car," she said, glancing back at the driveway. He wanted to come up too, but I asked him to stay back. I needed to say this myself. I looked past her. Andre sat in the passenger seat of their car, head bowed, elbows on his knees, like a child waiting outside the principal's office. When he noticed me looking, he lifted his head. Our eyes met. And Lord, my son looked like a man who had aged 10 years in 3 months. Guilt will do that to you. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He just stared at me with eyes full of regret and something deeper, shame. I turned back to Keisha. "What exactly is it you want from me?" She held out the folder again, hands trembling. "I need your signature. If you sign the papers, the bank will give us a loan modification. Lower payments. More time. If you don't," her voice broke completely, "we'll lose the house. The kids will lose their home." There it was. The plea. The desperation. The consequence. I took a slow breath and let the morning air fill my lungs. I didn't want to make a decision on that porch, not while emotions were fresh and wounds were open. I wasn't going to be manipulated by panic or pity. So I said the one thing she wasn't expecting.
No.
Her mouth fell open. Miss Evelyn, please, No, my voice was calm.
Steady.
Not today. Not like this. Her whole body wilted, the folder nearly slipping from her fingers. Then what am I supposed to do? She whispered. You and Andre need to come back, I said. Together. When you're ready to talk to me like family, not when you just need something. Her tears fell freely now, dripping onto the manila paper. Can we come tonight? She breathed.
No.
Tonight you go home and talk to your husband. Tell him the truth, all of it. Tell him why you pushed me away. Tell him what really happened. She nodded, choking back a sob. And tomorrow, I continued, if both of you are ready to come to me honestly, then we'll sit down and discuss what happens next. Her shoulders shook. Thank you for even giving us a chance. Don't thank me yet, I said quietly. Nothing's decided. She backed away from the door, wiping her eyes. But just before she reached the steps, she turned. Miss Evelyn, she whispered. Yes, you were always better for them. For all of us. That's what scared me. She walked away before I could respond. I watched her get into the car, watched Andre's head snap up when she opened the door, watched them drive off slowly, almost timidly, like two people finally realizing the weight of the bridge they had burned. I closed the door gently, and for the first time in months, I exhaled without feeling pain. Tomorrow was coming, and tomorrow, they were going to learn that forgiveness is possible, but not cheap. The next morning, I woke up before dawn, not because I couldn't sleep, but because peace feels different when you've been deprived of it for too long. It wraps around you soft, like warm water, reminding you of who you used to be before hurt twisted everything up. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, the smell filling the kitchen like a familiar hug. I sat at my table, the same one where Andre once told me he wanted to buy a house, the same one where I had cried into my hands just a few months earlier. Now I just waited, not anxious, not angry, just steady. If they were serious about repairing what they broke, they would show up. And if they weren't, well, I had survived worse losses in my life. I knew how to protect my heart. At 9:17 a.m., I saw their car pull up through the lace curtains. Both of them stepped out. Andre looked nervous, running his hand over his beard like he used to do when he was a boy caught lying about finishing his homework. Keisha walked beside him, slower, her face bare, no makeup, no mask. They weren't dressed like people coming to bargain. They were dressed like people coming to confess. I opened the door before they reached it. Andre spoke first. Mama, can we come in? I nodded and stepped aside. They walked in quietly, like my living room was a sanctuary and they were afraid to make noise in it. They stood there, hands clasped, almost like a pair of children waiting to be told where to sit. I gestured toward the couch. They sat. I sat across from them, and for a moment, none of us spoke. It was Andre who broke the silence. Mama, I owe you the truth. His voice cracked on truth, and something in me softened. Not enough to forget, but enough to listen. Then go on, I said gently. He took a breath and started. Mama, what happened these last few months wasn't just about space. It wasn't just busyness. Keisha and we've been going through a really hard time. Keisha looked down at her hands. Andre continued, eyes glistening. She quit her job without telling me. Said the kids needed her more at home. I didn't question it at first. I just wanted her to be happy. His voice trembled. But then bills started piling up. Then repairs. Then the bank notices. And I didn't know, Mama, I didn't know because she kept hiding them. I glanced at Keisha, whose shoulders curled inward with shame. Andre swallowed hard. I started staying late at work, picking up extra shifts, coming home exhausted. And Keisha thought I was pulling away from her, but I was just trying to hold everything together. Keisha spoke then, her voice barely above a whisper. I felt like everything I did was wrong, that every mistake I made, you'd judge me for it, Miss Evelyn. You're so strong, so steady, so sure of everything. And I'm not. Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away this time. You became the standard. Not intentionally, but I couldn't compete with the way the kids lit up around you. How Andre relaxed when you were around. How you made everything feel so easy. And instead of learning from you, I pushed you out. She wiped her cheek. I thought if I distanced you, maybe I could feel like the real mother, the real wife, the real woman of my own home. There it was, the heart of it, the jealousy, the insecurity, the fear of being inadequate, not malice.
Fear.
Still, fear can do just as much damage as cruelty. Andre leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Mama, you didn't deserve how he treated you. And I should have shut it down. I should have told Keisha she was wrong to cut you off. But I was tired and confused. And I just let things get worse. He took my hand, both of his hands covering mine the way he used to as a child when he wanted reassurance. I'm sorry. For real. I'm sorry for every missed call, every ignored text, every holiday where there was an empty seat at our table. His voice broke then. I miss you, Mama. Keisha wiped her nose and looked up, eyes red but clear. And I miss the way you loved our kids, she whispered. Nobody loves like you do. And I didn't realize how much that mattered until the whole house started falling apart. Silence settled again, but this time, it wasn't heavy. It was honest.
Raw.
Necessary. I let their words sit inside me for a moment, letting them sink and settle. Forgiveness isn't something you rush. It's something you earn. I finally spoke. Do y'all understand how much pain this caused me? I asked softly. Do you understand what it felt like to be locked out? To be treated like a danger to my own flesh and blood? They nodded, both of them, heads low. Yes, ma'am, Keisha whispered. I do, Mama, Andre said, voice breaking. I inhaled slowly, letting the air warm the ache inside my chest. I love those babies, I said. I love you, Andre. And I even love you, Keisha. But love don't mean you get to mistreat me and then expect me to jump when you snap your fingers. Keisha covered her mouth with her hand, nodding through tears. I continued, steady but firm. If we're gonna fix this, really fix this, it can't be one-sided. I'm not signing a thing if it's only for the house. I'll sign if, and only if, this family is ready to rebuild the right way. They exchanged a look, a shared, nervous, hopeful look, and nodded. We are, Andre said. I am, Keisha whispered. I leaned back, studying them, their tired eyes, their hunched shoulders, their regret. And for the first time in months, I saw my family again. Broken, but still mine. I'll go over the papers, I finally said. Both of them exhaled at once, relief mixed with fear, because they knew nothing was guaranteed. But I added, we gon' talk more. We gon' make some changes. Boundaries.
Respect. Truth.
No more secrets.
No more shutting people out.
If we're rebuilding, everybody helps lay the bricks. Keisha nodded hard, tears falling freely. Andre wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Thank you, Mama. I didn't respond. Not yet. There was forgiveness in me, but it was going to come slow. And it was going to come right. After we talked, the air in the room felt different. Not lighter exactly, but looser. Like the tight knot that had been strangling all three of us finally loosened a little. Not undone, just loosened. I stood up slowly. My knees complained, but that was nothing new. Andre immediately moved to help me, but I held up a hand. "I'm fine," I said. "Sit." I went to the kitchen, took down 3 mugs, and poured coffee. Keisha watched me from the couch, hands clasped like a child waiting on a verdict. But even she couldn't help noticing the familiarity in my motions, the way I tapped the spoon on the edge of the cup the same way I always had. The way the house smelled like vanilla creamer and cinnamon. A home doesn't forget the hands that built its rituals. I brought the mugs back and set them on the table.
"Drink," I said.
They did, both of them like it was holy water. When the first sips were taken, I picked up the folder Keisha had left on the table earlier and opened it. The pages were creased from worry, smudged from tears. The top sheet was a foreclosure warning, with the date printed in bold red at the top. 3 days. They had 3 days left. I flipped through the papers slowly, taking my time, not to draw things out, but to let them see that I wasn't rushing into anything. When I finished, I folded my hands in my lap. "Before I decide anything," I said quietly, "I need to understand something. Keisha, why didn't you come to me sooner? Before it got this bad?" Her eyes glazed with tears again. "I was embarrassed," she whispered.
"And ashamed."
"I didn't want you to see me fail. I didn't want to prove you right." I raised an eyebrow. "Right about what?" She swallowed hard. "Right that I wasn't ready for the responsibilities I took on." Andre put a hand on her back, rubbing softly. "I didn't want you to think I was using you," she continued, voice trembling. "Or that I only valued you for what you could do. So instead of coming to you, I hid. And the more I hid, the deeper the hole got." "And cutting me off from my grandkids?" I asked, not sharply but firmly. "How did that help?" Her face scrunched, guilt collapsing her features. "It didn't," she admitted. "It was selfish. And stupid. I thought if I could distance you, maybe the kids would look to me more. Maybe Andre would see me as the main woman in their lives. But all I did was make everybody miserable." Andre sighed deeply, running a hand over his head. "I should have stopped it," he said. "I should have told her that you're a part of this family, whether she liked it or not. But I was tired, Mama. And she was crying all the time. And I didn't want another argument in the house." His voice broke. "So, I chose peace. But I chose it the wrong way." I nodded slowly. "Peace bought with silence," I said softly, "ain't peace. It's a debt. And debts always come due." They both nodded.
Keisha wiped her cheeks.
"You have every right to hate me." "I don't hate you," I said immediately. "But I hate what you did." Her lip quivered. "And I hate how it hurt those babies. They didn't deserve any of it." "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry." I held her gaze for a long, steady moment, and for the first time since this whole ordeal started, I saw a woman, not an enemy. A broken, scared, overwhelmed woman who had made the wrong choices because she didn't know how to make the right ones. A familiar kind of woman. One I had once been at her age. I took a quiet breath. "Andre," I said softly, turning to my son, "tell me something. Did you know she put us at risk of losing that house?" He shook his head firmly. "Not until the last notice. I came home and saw it on the counter. I lost it."
I yelled. She cried.
The kids got scared. "It's been awful, Mama. We've been barely talking. We sleep on opposite sides of the bed now."
He wiped his eye.
"I ain't felt like myself in months." Keisha nodded, tears falling. "We're not okay. None of us are. And that," I said gently, "is why y'all need help. Not from the bank. from each other, and from me if I choose to give it. They both nodded quickly, almost desperately. I held up a hand. But before anything else, we need to talk about boundaries. They straightened, listening carefully. You will not, ever again, keep those kids from me out of jealousy or anger. If there's a problem, we talk it out. With respect, like grown folks. Yes, ma'am, Keisha whispered. Andre. Yes, Mama. I promise. And if I help save this house, you don't treat me like an outsider. I'm not asking for control. I'm asking for respect, communication, inclusion. I'm part of this family, and I won't be erased again. Both of them nodded so hard it almost hurt to watch. We promise, Andre said. We do, Keisha added softly. I exhaled, long and heavy, feeling a weight ease off my shoulders. Good, I said. Then let's take the next steps. Keisha blinked. You'll help us? I said I'll take the next steps. I corrected gently. Helping you save the house doesn't mean everything goes back to normal in one day, but it means we're starting. Her face broke open with relief, a silent, shaking exhale that made her whole body tremble. Andre covered his face with his hands and murmured, Thank you, God. But I wasn't finished. I want to see the repairs y'all mentioned. I want to understand what happened and what we're dealing with. And I want to talk to the loan officer myself before I sign a single thing. Clear? Yes, ma'am, they said in unison. Good. I stood again, slower this time. Keisha started to rise to help, but I waved her off. I'll meet y'all at the house at 3, I said. Be ready. And make sure the kid's there. I'm seeing my grandbabies today. Keisha covered her mouth with both hands, crying again. But this time, it wasn't guilt. It was gratitude. Real gratitude. Andre squeezed my hand gently. We'll be ready, Mama. When they finally stood to leave, they both moved like people who had just put down a burden they had carried too long. I walked them to the door. Not warmly, not coldly, just honestly. As they stepped out onto the porch, Keisha turned back. Miss Evelyn, she whispered. Yes, baby? Thank you for giving me another chance to be part of this family. I nodded once. We ain't there yet, but we're walking toward it. She wiped her eyes and followed Andre to the car. When they drove off, I stood on my porch for a long moment, letting the cool air brush against my skin. Something had shifted today. Not healed, not fixed, but shifted. And sometimes, that's the first sign that restoration is possible. By the time 3 o'clock rolled around, I'd changed into a soft blue blouse, the one Andre always said brought out the warmth in my skin, and put on my comfortable walking shoes. I wasn't dressing up for nobody, but I wasn't showing up looking tired or defeated either. I wanted them to see strength. Not anger, not bitterness, just strength. Because forgiveness without strength turns into weakness. I pulled into their subdivision a few minutes early. The rows of newly built houses all looked the same, but there stood out to me like a scar you know by heart. The moment my car eased to a stop in their driveway, something I hadn't felt in months spread through me. Hope. It wasn't loud or bright, just a small, steady warmth. Before I even got out of the car, the front door swung open, and Joshua came running out like a shot. Grandma, he yelled, arms stretched wide. Lord, my knees nearly buckled. I opened my arms, and he crashed into me, hugging my waist with all the strength in his little body. He smelled like crayons and shampoo and childhood, the kind of scent you don't realize you miss until it breaks you wide open. I held him so tight he squeaked, but he didn't let go. Grandma, where you been? Daddy said you was busy, but I didn't believe him because you always got time for me. His honesty hit me like a bittersweet slap. I missed you, baby, I whispered into his hair. More than you know. Before I could take a full breath, I heard a small voice from the doorway. Gamma? Little Nia stood there holding a stuffed bunny, blinking up at me like she wasn't sure if I was real or just something she'd dreamed about. I knelt down and held out my arms. She ran straight into them. Her tiny hands grabbed my cheeks, and she kissed me right on the nose like she used to, babbling, "Gamma, gamma, gamma," over and over. Behind them, Andre stood on the porch, shoulders hunched, hands in his pockets, his face cracked open with guilt and relief all at once. Keisha hovered just behind him, wiping her eyes quietly. For a moment, we all just existed there in a little bubble of what life used to be. But reality always returns.
And it did.
Inside the house, things were different. Not visibly. The couch was still the same. The family photos still hung on the wall. But emotionally, everything felt tight, like the walls were holding their breath. The kids stuck to me like glue, one on each arm, giving me a tour as if I'd never seen the place before. Their innocence made my chest ache. I walked into the kitchen and noticed something right away. A stack of unpaid bills in a drawer left slightly open. Andre noticed my eyes drift and quickly shut it. "We'll show you everything," he said. "Just let us start from the beginning." And so they did. They walked me through every breakdown, every mistake, every moment they should have reached out but didn't. Leaky roof repairs. Unexpected medical bills.
Keisha quitting her job.
A fraudulent contractor who took their deposit and vanished. Interest charges piling up. A missed payment turning into 2, then 3. Then the letters. Then the notices. Then the panic. Keisha stood beside the kitchen counter, twisting a dish towel in her hands. I lied to Andre. I lied because I thought I could fix it before he found out. And I lied because I didn't want you to think I was unreliable. I looked her in the eye. "I already thought you were unreliable," I said plainly. She flinched, but not in the way you think. She looked confused. "You weren't unreliable because you messed up money," I continued. "You were unreliable because you hid things. Because you let fear make your decisions. Because you hurt people who loved you." She nodded slowly, absorbing every word. "And if I sign these papers," I said, tapping the folder on the counter, "you're not just getting help with the house. You're agreeing to change, to communicate, to be honest even when the truth feels ugly." Andre nodded.
"We are."
"Mama, I swear we are." Her tiny hands grabbed my cheeks, and she kissed me right on the nose like she used to, babbling, "Gamma, gamma, gamma," over and over. Behind them, Andre stood on the porch, shoulders hunched, hands in his pockets, his face cracked open with guilt and relief all at once. Keisha hovered just behind him, wiping her eyes quietly. For a moment, we all just existed there in a little bubble of what life used to be. But reality always returns. And it did. Inside the house, things were different. Not visibly. The couch was still the same. The family photos still hung on the wall. But emotionally, everything felt tight, like the walls were holding their breath. The kids stuck to me like glue, one on each arm, giving me a tour as if I'd never seen the place before. Their innocence made my chest ache. I walked into the kitchen and noticed something right away. A stack of unpaid bills in a drawer left slightly open. Andre noticed my eyes drift and quickly shut it. "We'll show you everything," he said. "Just let us start from the beginning." And so they did. They walked me through every breakdown, every mistake, every moment they should have reached out but didn't. Leaky roof repairs. Unexpected medical bills. Keisha quitting her job. A fraudulent contractor who took their deposit and vanished. Interest charges piling up. A missed payment turning into 2, then 3. Then the letters. Then the notices. Then the panic. Keisha stood beside the kitchen counter, twisting a dish towel in her hands. I lied to Andre. I lied because I thought I could fix it before he found out. And I lied because I didn't want you to think I was unreliable. I looked her in the eye. I already thought you were unreliable, I said plainly. She flinched, but not in the way you think. She looked confused. You weren't unreliable because you messed up money, I continued. You were unreliable because you hid things, because you let fear make your decisions, because you hurt people who loved you. She nodded slowly, absorbing every word. And if I sign these papers, I said, tapping the folder on the counter, you're not just getting help with the house. You're agreeing to change, to communicate, to be honest even when the truth feels ugly. Andre nodded.
We are.
Mama, I swear we are. I wasn't done. And another thing, this time if the bank calls, they call me too. If a letter comes, I get a copy. If something goes wrong, I'm told immediately. No secrets. No surprises. Yes, ma'am, they both said quietly. I took a breath and finally said what needed to be said. I'm not here to punish y'all. I'm here to protect these kids. Protect my son. Protect myself. And a home, a real home, is built on openness, not fear. Andre's eyes shone with gratitude. So, you'll help us? He whispered. I didn't rush my answer. I let the silence hold the truth. And then I nodded. Yes, I'll sign. Because those babies deserve stability. And because y'all are trying to make things right. Keisha let out a sound that was half sob, half breath. She covered her face, crying into her hands, not from manipulation, not from fear, but from relief. Real, bone-deep relief. I wasn't done yet, though. One more thing, I said. They both looked up. Therapy. Andre blinked. Echa, y'all need help. A counselor. A neutral party to help y'all talk without shouting or hiding. This wasn't just about money. This was pressure. Pride. Fear. Miscommunication. All of it is a fire waiting to start again if you don't address it. They looked at each other, then nodded. Okay, Andre said. We'll do it. Whatever it takes. Keisha wiped her eyes and whispered, Thank you for not giving up on us. I touched her hand gently. Not fully a gesture of forgiveness, but something close. I didn't give up, I said softly, but I needed you to learn. And sometimes, lessons come with consequences. After paperwork was reviewed and questions were answered, I finally found myself alone with the kids in their playroom. Joshua showed me the drawings he'd made, messy, colorful scribbles with Grandma's face right in the center of every picture. Mia made me read her favorite storybook, her head tucked under my chin, humming quietly like she used to. And while I held them, I realized something. This house never needed my signature to be saved. What needed saving was the family inside it. And maybe, just maybe, today was the first step. The next 2 days moved slow, careful, almost like the air around us knew something fragile was being rebuilt and didn't want to disturb it. I met with their loan officer myself, a tired man with worry lines deep as rivers across his forehead. He explained the modification clearly, respectfully, and without sugarcoating the risks. Andre and Keisha sat beside me in that small office like students being tutored, back straight, hands folded, listening with a seriousness I hadn't seen in them before. Not the we're trying to impress you seriousness. The we're trying to change kind. The kind that sticks. By the time we signed the last page, the weight in the room shifted. Not lifted completely, but moved enough for all three of us to feel like we'd been let out of a tight corridor into open air. When the loan officer stood up and said, Congratulations, your home is safe. Keisha broke. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a quiet, breathless sob. The kind you make when you've been holding yourself together too long and someone finally tells you you're allowed to fall apart. I waited, not touching her yet, not rushing to comfort her. Sometimes a person needs their own tears before they can hear anybody else's words. Andre pulled her close, his lips pressed to her forehead, whispering something I couldn't hear but recognized, an apology woven into reassurance. When she finally lifted her head to look at me, her eyes were softer, humbled, open in a way I hadn't seen since the day she first walked into my home with that bouquet of flowers 3 years ago. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving us another chance." "I didn't give you another chance," I said gently. "I gave your children one." Her breath hitched. "But you're part of that," I added. That made her shoulders shake again. Andre wiped his nose with the back of his hand, looking embarrassed and grateful at once. "We won't waste this, Mama. I swear." "I hope not," I said softly, "because forgiveness is a gift. But it's also a responsibility." He nodded. We all rode back to their house in separate cars so they could pick up the kids from school. When I arrived behind them, Joshua and Nia came barreling out the door like tiny hurricanes of joy. "Grandma, you came back." It hit me, right then, deeper than anything had hit me through this whole ordeal.
Those babies had been waiting for me.
Not the house. Not the lock. Not the space.
Me.
They clung to me like vines wrapping around a tree trunk. Familiar, natural, unshakable. I held them both, breathing them in. "This right here," I whispered into their hair, "is why I fought as hard as I did." Later that evening, we all gathered in the kitchen, the room where most truths and most heartbreaks had lived. Andre cooked spaghetti, his go-to don't-mess-up meal, while Keisha washed vegetables and watched him with this soft, quiet expression of love and regret mixed together. I stood by the counter cutting garlic because some habits don't die even when the world shifts. When the kids ran off to play, Andre cleared his throat. "Mama, we talked to the counselor." I looked up. "You did?" He nodded. "We got an appointment on Tuesday. Family session." Keisha nodded too, eyes earnest. "We're going to work on communicating, on not letting fear or pride decide things for us. And on not shutting people out," I said. "Yes, ma'am," she whispered. Andre set down his spoon, looking at me with eyes I recognized, the same eyes he had when he was 10 and came home with a failing grade because he didn't ask for help. "Mama, I was wrong. I shouldn't have let things go that far. I let my wife's insecurities become my silence. I let your hurt become something I didn't address. And I let myself believe things were fine when they clearly weren't." I put my knife down. "Baby," I said softly, "you're human. But being human don't excuse the damage. It only explains it." He swallowed hard. "And now you fix it. Not with promises. With action."
"We will," he said.
"Both of us." Keisha whispered, "I want you in the kids' lives. I want you in our lives. Not because we need your name on a deed, but because we need your presence, your guidance, your steadiness." It was the first time she'd said something that wasn't centered on her guilt. It was centered on gratitude. I nodded, letting her words sit inside me. "I can work with that," I said. After dinner, the kids begged for story time. We sat on the couch, their little heads resting on my lap, and I read them the book they always asked for, the one about the little girl finding her way back home after making 1,000 mistakes. I'd never realized how fitting that story was until now. Halfway through, I glanced over and saw Andre and Keisha standing in the doorway, watching us. Andre's eyes were wet again. Keisha's were soft, hands loosely clasped at her chest. And for the first time since all this began, I saw something I hadn't seen in months. A family. Not a perfect one. Not a healed one, but a family fighting to be whole. When the kids finally drifted to sleep on the couch, Andre lifted Joshua with a gentleness that made my heart squeeze. Keisha scooped up Nia, kissing her cheek with a quiet tenderness. When they came back downstairs, the house was dim and quiet. I gathered my purse, but before I could reach the door, Keisha stepped forward. "Miss Evelyn, can I hug you?" I looked at her, this woman who had hurt me deeply, who had made choices that cut me open, and I saw the truth. She wasn't the same woman anymore. So I opened my arms. She hugged me tight. Not a polite squeeze. A real hug. A humbled, grateful, rebuilding hug. "I'm going to do better," she whispered against my shoulder. "I promise." "Then do it," I said softly.
For them.
"For him. For yourself." She nodded into my shoulder. Andre hugged me next, his arms bigger, heavier, trembling. "I love you, Mama." "I love you too, baby." When I finally stepped out onto their porch, the cool night air hit my face like a blessing. Because that home, the one I helped them buy, the one they nearly lost, didn't feel closed anymore. It felt open,
Honest.
hopeful. And as I walked to my car, I whispered a little prayer under my breath. "Lord, let them keep walking in the right direction." Because saving a house is one thing. Saving a family is another. The days that followed moved gently, like a river smoothing out after a storm. Not perfectly calm, not without lingering currents, but moving forward. And sometimes that's all a family really needs. I didn't rush back into their lives, not the way I once had. I didn't show up unannounced with cornbread and sweet tea, or take over bedtime routines like before. This time, I let them come to me. And they did. Every evening, without fail, I'd get a text from Andre. "Kids want to FaceTime Grandma." Or from Keisha. "Can you help me with a recipe? Do you have time to talk? I'm trying to do better." She said that last one often. Not out of guilt, but practice. Like she was reminding herself of the promise she made on that couch. The breakthrough came one Wednesday afternoon when I heard a knock on my door, soft, hesitant, but familiar. I opened it and found Keisha standing there with Nia on her hip, a diaper bag slung over her shoulder, and her eyes gentle instead of guarded. "Miss Evelyn," she said, we came to spend the day with you, if that's okay." My heart softened instantly. Of course it's okay. Y'all come in. That day, I showed her how to make Sunday greens the right way, not boiled into mush like she used to do before she learned better. She chopped onions while I seasoned the pot, and little Nia toddled between us, handing spoons like it was her life's mission. At one point, while the greens simmered, Keisha wiped her hands on a towel and turned to me. "Can I ask you something?" "Go on, baby." "How did you forgive me? Really forgive me?" I didn't answer right away. I took the pot off the stove, let the steam rise between us like a curtain lifting, and thought about all the hurt, the locked door, the silence, the months without seeing the children. "Forgiveness ain't forgetting," I said slowly. "And it ain't pretending what happened didn't cut deep. Forgiveness is deciding that the pain won't own you anymore." Her eyes watered. "And trust," she whispered. "Trust," I said gently, "comes back slow, like morning light. It don't rush. It don't force. It just grows if you make space for it." She nodded, tears falling quietly, but her shoulders stayed steady. "I want to earn that," she said. "I want to be a better mother, a better wife, a better daughter-in-law." "You already started," I told her, by walking through my door. Her breath shook, but she smiled. A real smile. Week by week, everything shifted. Andre and Keisha kept going to counseling. The kids started spending weekends with me again. And every time I pulled up to their house, the door opened before I even knocked, like they were waiting for me. One Saturday morning, I walked into their living room and stopped dead in my tracks. On the main wall, the one opposite the couch, hung a row of framed photos. Their wedding day, Joshua's first birthday, Nia's first steps, and right in the center, a picture of me holding both kids in my arms, smiling like I was holding the whole world. My breath caught. "You put this up?" I asked, voice trembling. Andre stepped beside me. "We wanted to make sure this house reflects the truth," he said. "You're part of this family. You always have been. And the kids need to see that. We need to see that." Keisha nodded softly behind him. "And we're not hiding it anymore." I placed my hand on the frame, the glass cool under my fingertips. Something inside me, something that had been bruised and quieted, finally exhaled. This was what healing looked like. Not perfect, not quick, but real. A month later, we celebrated the loan modification being finalized. Nothing fancy, just a backyard barbecue with cheap paper plates, plastic cups, and kids running around with sticky hands. Andre grilled chicken the way his father used to. Keisha made potato salad, and Lord help her, she finally stopped putting raisins in it. The kids played tag until they collapsed on the grass giggling. At one point, Keisha walked over holding 2 lemonades. "For you," she said, offering one. I took it. "Thank you." We stood side by side watching the kids chase each other. "I used to be scared of losing Andre," she admitted quietly. "That's why I acted the way I did. I felt like there wasn't enough love to go around. That if you had a place in his life, I'd lose mine." I shook my head gently. "Love don't work like that. It ain't a pie. Giving me a slice don't take nothing from yours. It grows when you share it." She looked at me then, really looked like nobody had ever explained it to her that way before. "I see that now," she whispered. "And that," I said, "is why you and I gone be just fine." She let out a shaky breath and laughed softly, wiping the corner of her eye. "You're a good woman, Miss Evelyn." "I try," I said. "And you're learning to be." Her hand found mine, tentative at first, then steady. Family found its way back. Not because I signed a piece of paper, but because we finally sat down and faced the cracks honestly. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low and cast gold over the yard, Andre wrapped his arm around my shoulders. "Mama," he said softly, "I know I can't take back what happened, but thank you for not giving up on us." I leaned into him. "I didn't fight for y'all because you're perfect," I said. "I fought because you're mine. And love don't disappear just because someone makes a wrong turn." He nodded, his jaw tight with emotion. "We're better now," he said. "Yes," I whispered. "You are." As I drove home, the sky turning lavender and soft behind me, I realized something important. That house wasn't saved because of my signature. It was saved because love finally outweighed fear. Because truth finally outweighed pride. Because a family finally chose healing over silence. Forgiveness didn't erase the past. It built a bridge over it. A bridge we could walk across, together. And as I pulled into my driveway, I felt the peace I'd been missing for months settle in my chest like a warm, quiet prayer finally answered. You know, as I sit here now, looking back on everything that happened, I'm reminded of something my own mama used to say. Family will test you harder than the world ever will because they know exactly where your heart lives. And Lord, wasn't she right? I learned something through all this, something quiet, something deep. Forgiveness ain't a gift you hand out like candy. It's a choice, a boundary, a bridge you decide to rebuild only if the folks on the other side are willing to meet you halfway. My daughter-in-law wasn't perfect. My son wasn't either. And truth be told, neither was I. But love, the real kind, doesn't thrive in silence or pride. It grows in honesty, in repentance, in conversations that hurt before they heal. And sometimes, God will let a house shake, just enough to make a family rebuild its foundation stronger. If you're listening to this, Whether you're watching from your couch or on your phone while you cook dinner, I want to ask you something from my heart. Have you ever been hurt by someone you loved and had to decide whether to close your door or open it one more time? Would you have signed those papers? Would you have helped them? Would you have forgiven or walked away? Tell me in the comments, because your story matters too. Somebody out there might need to hear what you've been through. And if this story touched you, or made you think, or reminded you of your own family, go on and like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a little light today. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, take care of your heart, and take care of each other.